gardening friends. It's now just before 5 o'clock on Friday, and I think this might be my only update of the week. Not a whole lot has changed. It's been another busy week for me, but a few things have, so let me show you around. First off, the tomato on the Somerset vine, if you will, has finally matured, and I've harvested it, and I'm going to enjoy it along with my pizza tonight. Second, the Marconi pepper finally changed color this week, but I gotta show you something else from outside. Third, there is no actual change to this particular planter with the fava beans. But fourth, there is a change here. I finally have a sprout to look forward to. So even if I only get one of the 5 that I planted to actually turn into a plant, I'll be happy. It's going to be way over on the right side of the planter, but we'll work with that. Going back to the pepper plant, I'm hoping you can actually see this. I tried to get a good angle. Something has actually eaten into the pepper. I'm really disappointed. After all the time I waited for that pepper to grow, something's eaten into it. There appear to be maybe some seeds left over in there. I'll have to cut it down and take a look. I've also noticed quite a few leaves dropping off the plant, so I'm thinking something's attacking the plant again. So what I've done is gone ahead and sprayed it with the mixture of marigold and water, the marigold tea, if you will, in hopes that that will help start repelling, and I'm going to have to go back to doing that again. The good news is I can actually see way up top a couple of flowers, so that might mean there's a couple of peppers on the way, but from what I remember, it takes at least a few weeks for them to go from flower all the way through to a nice orange pepper. So, disappointed. That's, I guess, one thing you got to deal with as a gardener. Sometimes there are creatures that will attack. Going back around to the pergola, you can see that the coleus plants are doing a lot better. This is just, I just wanted to show you what they look like when they're not all wilted over. It's later in the day. They wilted earlier. I gave them some more water. They picked back up again. This is what they look like. Speaking of the pergola, I don't think I've showed you this view in a while. There's not a lot of flowers. There's a little bit of deadness up there I need to trim off, but I did spend a fair amount of time earlier today just pulling dead leaves and what have you off of so many plants. This is just something I didn't actually get to. Overall, all the gardening looks that much better for it. And for good measure, here's a few of the coleus that are picking up nicely. You can see some color in the leaves, especially the one on the bottom there. Some nice little red veins running through it. So I'm happy to see those, and I'm looking forward to when they get to be as big as the other ones that you just saw. And since this is a shorter update, I figured I'd give you a quick view of the planter in the north courtyard that has, oh, what do we got in here? Cardinal Climber, Verbena, and Morning Glory. And they're not huge, but they're growing. They're actually starting to climb. I'm hoping that you can kind of see that they've made it up above the banana plant. I wonder if those leaves are actually shading it all. It's at least keeping them alive if I don't get up here to water. It's going to take a little while for them to climb as high as, oh wow, I'm actually realizing they're up a fair amount if you just watch the stem itself. You can't see it in this view, but it goes up a fair amount higher. So hopefully when it cools down a bit, it was around 100 degrees today again, although it's been cooler for most of the week, but it's looking good. There is a new addition to the gardening, although I may not cover this all that much. This is a planter next to one of the other apartments that emptied out, and I was turning the apartment and realized they left behind this big pot. They also had a tiny little garden next to their stoop where they had planted in the ground, which we don't generally recommend or encourage. and in there was I believe that's a Shasta daisy. So I decided to transplant it in there, and just in front of it I got another coleus which I transplanted from a bunch of others, so I'm hoping that will ultimately pop up. I planted like 5 of them in there. This looks like the only one that actually took. Coleus doesn't transplant all that well from seedling, I guess, but I have seen them bounce back, so I'm encouraged by that, and I'm going to look forward to possibly having some daisies in there as well as a big old coleus plant. Last year I tried several times to actually show you what our Kingo tree looks like when it changes color. This hasn't really changed color yet, but if you look carefully at the leaves you can see they've got a bit of a yellow tinge around the outside of the leaves, which tells me that they're starting to turn. So despite the heat we've had the last few weeks, these plants seem to know that it's fall. And with all of those updates, we'll wrap up here in the south courtyard in the two out of 3 big 20-gallon planters. The other one is the wildflowering planter, and that's looking a little sickly, but it's really supposed to be about wildflowering. Anyway, I hope the rest of you are maybe doing a little bit better despite the heat, or you live in another climate and you're just not having a problem at all. But this is what gardening is about, and sometimes things work well, sometimes they don't. You look at the one on the left, you can see how overgrown that planter is starting to get and very green. Look up the one on the right and you can see it's starting to pick up. There's some coleus in there. So overall, that's just part of gardening. You plant stuff, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it works for a while and then something attacks it. Who knows? This is the Budget Gardener signing off and saying, may your thumb be green.